I want to talk a little bit today about principles for peaceful living. If this is the work that you like doing, here are 5 touchstones, especially for living in times, the crazy, crazy times that we are currently living in. One of the principles that we practice here is respect for personal sovereignty and emotional boundaries. That is one of the main interpersonal principles, ethical principles. That means I honor your right to be your own person. And I want you to think a little bit about how are you doing this in your own life? Are there people in your own life where this is challenging for you? Where is it hard for you to honor somebody's right to be their own person? I don't try to control your choices. I don't try to fix your feelings. I don't try to override your needs. I respect your no, and I expect mine to be respected in return. How does this look in practice? If a friend of mine needs alone time, I don't take it personally. I support their autonomy. I hear other people's no's. I don't take other people's needs personally. There is a global extension, and I want to mention this. The reason for me that I do this personal work in my own life, not only because it reduces so much suffering, and so I love it, but also because I have a deep belief that the personal work that each one of us is doing extends onto the global stage. This principle extrapolated onto the global stage means that just as individuals thrive when their boundaries are honored, nations require sovereignty to flourish without coercion or external domination. So if you're into peacemaking or nonviolence, this is one of the challenges that we want to be thinking about. Respecting borders literally and emotionally is foundational to trust. That is an ethical principle that I believe in. The next one is non-aggression in conflict. And what does this mean in my relationships? It means that I commit to handling conflict without verbal violence, manipulation, or reactivity. I stay with my curiosity and I don't attack you. I seek to understand you, not to dominate you, not to control you, not to judge you. In an argument, I take a breath and I might say something like, help me understand what is going on for you, instead of launching straight into defense or blame. And how does this play out globally? Peaceful diplomacy echoes this micro practice. If we want world leaders, politicians to be able to do this, I want you to look at, let me say it like this. I look at my own life and I think, geez, this is so hard for me with my small little family conflicts. I don't know how people can live into this in their work in a daily basis with people that they may not even like. But when countries prioritize negotiation over war, they model relational maturity at scale, and they choose dialogue over destruction. In times like these, I think we really need to be choosing dialogue over destruction. Principle number 3, non-interference, okay, in personal growth and inner work. I don't try to fix you, rescue you, or reshape you into my image, okay? I trust your process. Even if it is different from mine, I offer support, not control. Even in my work as a therapist and as a coach and as a consultant, a lot of my focus is on helping you figure out your own inner wisdom and getting grounded in your own inner goodness and getting grounded in your inner resources and finding your inner blueprint so that you can express what is meaningful to you. When someone is going through grief, I don't rush them to just get over it. I don't have a timeline for other people, right? I sit beside them, quietly honoring their timing. How does this play out globally? Cultural imperialism begins where our curiosity ends. When nations interfere in others' internal affairs under the guise of quote unquote helping, they risk violating the dignity of that culture, of those people, of that history, of that context. And true global respect does begin with restraint and wisdom, not imposing ourselves on one another. Number 4, relational equity and mutual benefit. This means relationally, and you'll find me doing this on these calls all the time, both people matter. We both matter, right? In whatever interpersonal interaction that I'm in, I don't assume that my time, my feelings, or my needs are more important than yours. I look for ways where both of us get to thrive, not just one of us. So if I'm planning a vacation, we look for what would nourish us both, not just advocating for my preferences without care for yours. What does this look like globally? If we're looking at trade and diplomacy and climate responsibility or whatever else you want to add to that list, partnerships are reciprocal. They are not extractive. They are not exploitive. They need to be mutually beneficial in order to be just or fair or sustainable. And there's way too much extractive, exploitative using going on in the world. But if we want to be solving this on a global level, we begin by solving it locally. We begin by solving it in how I'm interacting both with myself and the people that I influence and in my local communities, and then it will ripple out. Now, that's not the only way. It also has to ripple down, but I'm about the inside out, not the outside in, but they are both needed. Okay? They're both needed. And finally, my fifth ethical principle for you today is a commitment to peaceful coexistence across differences. What does this mean in my own life? I don't need you to be like me in order for me to be safe with you. You don't have to look like me. You don't have to think like me. You don't have to feel the same way that I feel. You don't have to have the same perceptions as me. I can be safe with you, even if we're really different. I can live alongside people with different beliefs, different identities, different worldviews without fear or force. Of course, there are limits to this. When somebody is aggressive, contemptuous, hateful, violent, I need to be able to protect myself from them. We absolutely need the protective use of force. But I'm just talking about like garden variety differences. My neighbor's politics or religious beliefs can differ from mine, and we can still share our tomatoes and be kind across our fence. Okay? At a time when ideological purism is fueling global division, because that is happening a lot, this principle might remind us that shared humanity transcends these systems, and peace does not require sameness, but it does require non-aggression and respect. And when people are unable to bring non-aggression and they are bringing contempt, we absolutely need to get very, very good at the protective use of force. But that is not generally the people on my calls, so I'm not going to say a lot of that here and now, but I want to put a nod to it, and I have an entire podcast on the difference between the punitive use of force and the protective use of force, and I recommend you go listen to that if that's something that you're interested in. So nonviolent principles like these do invite a deeper kind of maturity, and that is the kind of personal growth path that we are on here. Power means presence. Boundaries create bridges. Differences are a source of wisdom, not fear. And when practiced in our homes and our friendships and our communities, these are blueprints for a more peaceful world. And I want to inspire you to stay on that journey, especially if, like me, you are feeling overwhelmed and any kind of despair by everything going on. I want to remind you that the work you are doing in your own heart, in your own relationships matters. It ripples out. So don't forget about your circles of influence and how powerful you really are.